Hello, one and all, and welcome to my YouTube show, Creative Spark, where I talk to cool people about the cool things that they do. With me today is a man so incredulous, it's hard to believe that there's secretly four of him. Hello.
That's the best intro I've ever had. Hi, thank you for having me.
How are you?
Really good, honestly. It's been an overwhelming year, an exciting year, and a busy few months. But no, I can't complain at the moment. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm just good. I'm a little tired, a little stressed. Still in the process of moving house, which I think I've whinged about on previous episodes of this.
It would definitely linger. The stress of it doesn't go away for quite a while, so it's understandable.
We're meant to be near the end of the process now, and that would be
Yeah,
nice.
okay, that
I
would
just want to
be.
get out of this box that I'm in that is my office, where I can literally reach like both sides of the wall way too
You're in the exact
comfortably.
same space as me. This is I call it my 2x2 prison where I just co-inhabit for 16 hours a day. So
I just sit here while I work and while I YouTube
yeah.
things, and I'm just like, yeah, this is fine. Except it's got a washing machine in it. Like, it's a strange space. But yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. So we're going
Good.
to talk about you, which is kind of the point of interviews, as it turns out.
Fun.
You,
That
you
did
sound
so
so
well.
enthusiastic about it. Incredible. Right, let's talk. Let's go back before YouTube. Cast your mind back, decades,
Okay,
eons.
okay. I'm there.
Um, when you were a mere whip of a lad. No, you used to do games journalism, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Wow, when was that? Start of COVID. I started doing some game journalism with a Aussie publication group called Game on Australia for a good few years.
Very cool. How did you wind up doing that?
That's fine. It probably ties in with a bit of the origin stuff as well. So I got my content creation-ish journey. I think like a lot of people in the streaming space, I started streaming during COVID because Melbourne got locked down for 7 months and I wanted human engagement. So got into the space of creating, and then through that met a couple of people who worked at Game On Oz. We just mutually ran into each other, and I expressed a desire to figure out that side of things,
Mhm.
and it was good and bad, but I didn't enjoy my time going through the process. The team and everything was fantastic. It's just I think that I jumped on the end of an industry where new game journalism outlets don't really pop up all that often, so it was hard trying to break into the space.
It's not great out there for games
No.
journalists, folks. Uh, I mean, a lot of industries are suffering, right? Because like
Yeah, of
stuff
course.
boomed sort of during COVID, and then after COVID, stuff unboomed.
Exactly.
We're currently in the mid boom. I don't
Yeah,
know how to
mid-boom. I think
continue
mid
this
mid-boom.
ridiculous.
Mid it's the calm before a reboom or a yeah, I'm there.
Yeah,
I'm there
maybe
with you.
we're about to reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good, hopefully. But yeah, it's
It's rough.
it is rough. So you started doing everything there, and now you talk about now you do D&D skits.
You want the arc
Yeah,
of
I
Arla? Yeah,
it's
okay.
perplexing.
No, it is a very weird roller coaster that I've been on. So I started streaming probably first year of COVID, which somehow was 5 years ago, which is insane to me.
Yep.
Don't like that, but not thinking about that too much. Did that for about 3 years until we got let outside again permanently, which was lovely. But then towards the end of that and coming out of it, I had a lot of fun streaming. It was really good. I built up a nice little community, but also it was a time commitment while juggling two other kind of jobs where I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I just can't do this and also maintain the rest of life that I needed to figure out as well, which was a hard thing. I really loved it, but it just wasn't. I guess the time investment in that wasn't for me. And then I was doing the game journalism stuff on the side, which kind of wrapped up and that we shut down
Okay.
a couple of months after I stopped streaming. But during all of that process and throughout the, I guess, endeavors of trying to make a bigger name for yourself in an ocean of streamers, I got into video editing and editing down my clips and fell in love with, I guess, the video creation process and all of that. I just found that really I like the idea of, and I think it's just my inability to maintain focus on something for an extended period of time unless I'm really hyper fixated on it. I think I'm funnier in very short bouts, which is why I think streaming never worked super well for me because I was like, that's a long time to try and be switched on the whole time. And then when I got into editing, and I'm like, I can just make a joke for a minute, and I'm good at that. Like I can give you a one liner, and so it was game related and game central related to the content I was doing on stream. When I stopped, I didn't want to let it go, and I think this is the funniest thing that most people don't actually know about my start of, I guess, I don't like the word virality, but when I started getting a bit of traction with YouTube specifically, I made Stardew Valley content. That was my
Amazing.
origin story. I fell in love with the game after I stopped streaming because I play a lot of non-cozy things. And I'm like,
Mm.
I just want something that doesn't matter and is low maintenance. And I got super addicted to it and made a couple of videos on my addiction about it. And they went very well. And then my brain went, this is all you can do now. Just go all in on the farming game, which I think that's just a telltale sign of how often I hyperfixate on stuff.
Yep.
And went through the process of doing that, and then I played so much of the game that I stopped enjoying it,
Yep.
and I went to a weird point of, well, I could keep making about this thing I don't enjoy. I could pivot, and then I sat there and was like, I love the creation process. I love having an audience that cares. I want to just talk about the thing that I really actually enjoy and have
Mm.
enjoyed for an extended period of time, which is D&D and TTRPGs, which also conveniently started all the way at the start of COVID because I've been a high fantasy dork and nerd forever, but couldn't convince any of my friends to play. And then when they're locked inside without a choice for a few months, it's easy. It's easy to pivot them into giving it a go.
Uh, Nerds love a captive audience.
That's exactly right.
And
And then
who's more captive than those in lockdown?
exactly. Uh, so I chiseled away at them, got them to give it a go, and we loved it. We were doing it every week, just all online. It was a hard pitch because, and it's, I think I had a very weird intro to D&D in the sense of they weren't high fantasy nerds.
Okay.
And I had to, at the time, it was a very early adaptation of Star Wars 5th edition with some not super optimized rules, but they were Star Wars fans, and I'm like,
Yep.
I'm gonna figure out how to run this. So I did that. We had a great time. We loved it. We got let outside. Some of the guys had to go back to work and regular routines, and then a large majority of them came back and said, "No, we want to do the real thing," and that got me super excited. And we've been playing a homebrewed game for 2.5 years since then. That has just been my everything. I love it. I because obviously I liked high fantasy when I was
Mm.
younger. I'd done some creative writing, had this world that I was never going to do anything with.
Yep.
But then I just thought to myself, oh, I could just put them in this. I've done the prep. I don't have to do
Yeah.
more prep. Just chuck them in there and see how they like it. And it's been great.
So you DM that presumably, right?
That's my love and intro and ongoing, still hasn't finished campaign that got me into D&D. Yeah, so I DM
That's
that.
amazing. Do you get a chance to play then, like as a player?
It's been a very recent I've played fairly recently for the first couple of times, and I'm getting more and more. I was terrified to be on the other side of the table because I just didn't understand how to be. And then a couple of my creative friends whittled me down into we did a Stride campaign for a little amount of time, and I fell in love with being a player and picking on the DM. It is fun being on the other side and ganging up and
It
mob
is fun.
mentality of upsetting. I know. I just keep looking for more opportunities to do so. So I've been pulled into some actual play stuff coming up, which is really exciting, and I'm looking for more opportunities in that space. So definitely enjoying figuring out how to be a player.
Very, very cool. How was your first experience as a player compared to being a DM?
I disliked not knowing everything. I like obviously obviously you don't even as a DM know what your players are going to do, but I disliked just the I don't know. Anything could happen. I don't know what any of the players going to do, and I don't know what the DM's going to do, and that's all scary. But I think being around people who are experienced and established, it took me a couple of minutes, and I was like, "Oh, this I'm just super comfortable now." I was like, I don't. It's the fun thing of being a DM and being able to put on a different hat
Mm,
at any given time, and you don't really, unless you've got an ongoing NPC or big bad that you're constantly re-bringing up. It was intimidating to just this is me for however long this is going to last for, and I don't get to necessarily put on a new hat, and
yes.
I haven't had to do this, so it was intimidating. But I fell in love with. I made a a Strahd campaign. I made a little 2-year-old goblin called Grimgor, who was just a little orphan infant ball of terror that
Yeah.
I just absolutely fell in love with, and the party just kind of adopted and carried around and babysat the entire time. And I love him. I live for him. I'm going to drag him into other games because we're done with
Yep.
Strahd. But it's my favorite thing I've made.
I think the love that you feel for your characters as a player versus the ones that you make as a DM is entirely because as a DM, you're literally just like, right, what stupid accent should this guy have? Okay, it's this one.
That's
What stupid
exactly.
tick should this person have? Oh, this person talks only in the things that are orange. Or like, what hell have I subjected myself to? Whereas as a player, you get to like really sink into the character
That's
and be
it.
like,
I
oh,
think
this is like a little bit of me just out in the
E
world.
exactly what you said as well. The most intimidating thing I found was I'm like, "Am I gonna stick to a voice for temporary potentially months?"
Yeah.
And that making that decision was really intimidating because 'cause I'm like, "I could just talk. This is easy." I'm like, "But that's not as" and I can't even do it. I've lost the ability to do it. I was drinking like a honey tea to get my throat all scratchy and, so I'll have to if I ever wanna dig that up, I'll have to retrain the vocal cords on how to, but it was really fun. It's good, and I helped with DMing as well, being able to take in the perspective of
Mm,
obviously I've done as much possible research into reading. You can only read and watch so many videos before you go, oh, I actually just need to just sit over there and learn and playing with other DMs and
yes.
figuring out how other people run games and systems. That's the thing I'm really enjoying at the moment, seeing how other people do things differently to me.
It's a proper joy to play with other DMs, especially if there's multiple DMs. So I'm really lucky. The group that I play
Exactly.
with has 4 out of the 5 of us DM in the group
That's awesome.
regularly. So we switch constantly between who's in charge. Like one person will be running a main campaign. Usually, if there's a random week where someone can't make it, I end up having to come up with something. We just finished one last night, actually. Um, but it's fun because we've all got different takes on how we should do things. But it's
Yeah.
nice having like these little congregations of DMs at the end of each session and talking about, oh, how? What do you think about this? Do you think this spell is completely broken? Should we nerf this spell?
It's
Usually third party stuff. I love a lot of the third party stuff, but like a good example is I think it's called Storm Door from Kobold Press. That thing is so busted.
It's so broken.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
The
it is cool. Like,
It's
it's not
so
I
cool.
don't I'm not mad it's broken. It's
Yeah,
really cool, but it also is very
it's so
broken.
broken. We nerfed it by not allowing it to be upcast.
Oh,
That
that's a
was
good
that
way of
was we were
handling it.
like,
Yeah.
it is cool. The issue is you can teleport your entire party away from like it doesn't matter what monster you throw at
Anything.
someone. If they can
Yeah,
teleport 240 feet away every round, you
they're
cannot
gone. Yeah,
catch them.
can't catch them. It's just makes it redundant, but
Incredibly funny, not helpful for a
yeah,
story,
yeah,
unfortunately.
exactly.
We've gone butt about face on this. Normally I get into the D&D stuff at the end, but that's fine. Um,
That's fine.
so you started doing video editing. How did you land on your name as a YouTuber?
That's a fair I like this question because, Arlentric is a combination of my, favorite book character, Arlen Bales from the I should know the name of the series. I'm having brain fog right now, and it's gonna someone out there knows and will comment it because I can't be bothered going to check. But he was just a cool character I resonated with. That's hard to say. He covers himself in tattoos and eats demon flesh. I don't resonate with that. I just thought he was a very
I think
cool
that's very
character.
relatable. Uh,
And then I just combined the name Arlen because I just liked. I never had I guess when you grew up on Xbox and
mm,
PlayStation, never had a cool nickname, and I always wanted one. So I guess I forced one on myself, and it actually stuck, which is fun. And then yeah, just combined Arlen with the word like eccentric, and needed something for stream to dive in and figure out, and it's kind of just landed. Now it's been shortened to Arlo, and that's where we are.
there we are. Very cool. Mine is a relic from mine is End of Day Strife. I think it's the first time I'm saying it on a Creative Spark thing. which is why I just call myself Jason, because that's my
It's
actual
fair.
name, and B, don't make up stupid words and then assign themselves to yourself for the rest of time. This is not a problem our parents had. None of our parents had to like go by their gamer tag for the rest of their life by accident.
That's who I didn't think it mattered. I don't hate it. I'm like, cool. It's fine.
Yeah.
Didn't think anyone would ever like. I was just at PAX Australia over last weekend, and people go, Arlentric, and I'm like, that sounds very formal, and I guess that is my name. Hello, lovely.
That's Mr.
Hi.
Arlentric.
Yeah.
Put some respect on the name.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of your output is skits, not all of it, but a lot of it. How do you find inspiration?
Oh, everywhere. I like finding magic items, and I find it a lot from my D&D play group. Is a big one because they just do stupid stuff, and it's very easy to represent that. Like it's just I got a notes app full of just like I don't even write session notes. I just write dumb things that they do down, and I go, "Thank you, guys." And then a lot of the time, I mean, you always bash the same jokes that have always been done because I think it's the funniest thing going through, and we were touched on before we started the YouTube algorithm is it's a fun thing that I still don't understand, and sometimes the things I'm the most proud of, the algorithm doesn't care, and it's like, well, make another joke about bards doing weird stuff with creatures, and it's like, okay, well, that's if that's what the algorithm likes, I may cater to it every now and then. A lot of time it's just I see a lot of jokes and memes and I don't know. It's a lot of learned experience and what I loved doing, especially I've picked up over the past few weeks a lot of third party TTRPG books. I just like finding magic items. Magic items are a big one for me where I'm like, how can I use this not as it was initially laid out to because that's funny to me. What is the obscure going on deep Reddit threads of like, here's some dumb things you can it's a world of information out there, and my favorite thing is just seeing people's broken builds and stuff, and like, oh, I like learning. I've never been like going through game journalism and playing games. I've never won for breaking games, but now I'm finding myself very intrigued in breaking this really intricate system that's been put in front of me.
It's fun to do.
Yeah. Oh, it's so enjoyable. I get so much joy out of it.
I think both as a player and as a DM as well. Because as a DM, you are the rules. Like, yes, the rules
exactly.
are there, but certainly after a certain point of time, you end up just like freewheeling the rules anyway. Like, this is a new rule. You can't do anything about this because I need this for a story moment. Deal with it. You can call that railroading if you want. I call it storytelling.
Very, very. Agreed. Yes, that is the case. Yes.
I really liked the Ring of Grammarian. I think that's the one that just went up.
Yeah, that's from the Adventure Zone, which is just like Brennan Mulligan's on that, and that's such a cool. I saw the premise of it, and I listened to it on something else that I think Dungeons and Daddies had a similar thing that did something of a similar vein, and I knew my favorite thing about it. I was like, I don't care how this goes because if no one's seen the Adventure Zone or anything like this, the comments are going to be funnier than my video, and that's all I cared about. It's the thing I'm starting to enjoy the most. I used to get really, really in my head about being intimidated by comments because it's content creation is very overwhelming, and it can weigh down on you. But I've loved now posting videos where I look at it and go, I'm more excited to see what people say to like yes and the joke than my initial joke. I'll do the low hanging fruit and then see what other creative thing. And that's another thing that I found really enjoyable, especially on YouTube with how engaged the community is. Sometimes they'll just write something and I go, "That's so much funnier. Can I turn this into a video?" And they go, "Yes, please. Please turn it into a video," which helps me because it's coming up with ideas. Eventually, I know I'm going to run out of them. So it's good to have people who are like, do this. And I'm like, thank you. Are you sure?
Thank you for making my work much easier. You've also started doing it in recent months some like non-skit stuff in longer form as well.
Yes.
How's that been?
it's the hardest, I guess. No, pivot's not the right word, but it's a hard thing I've been trying to be more comfortable with. In the fact that as I like to describe myself, my elevator pitch of myself is I do dad jokes skin in the world of D&D, and that's my whole spiel. But obviously with there's a wealth of people with more experience, but I've read a lot of D&D stuff. There's a wealth of knowledge. And I'm not just funny all the time. I've been trying to figure out how to relay that information,
Mm.
not just in joke form, which it's been a mixed bag. But I think that I'm much less harsh on myself because I'm well aware, and the fun of the YouTube algorithm is just because I have a lot of people who enjoy my shorts, that doesn't transition into people who want to watch a
The
15 to
two
20-minute video.
do
It's a
not
different
meet.
beast. No, not at all, not at all. Which, when you think about it logically, it's if someone wants to watch a 40-second video and scroll to the next one, it's not going to be the same person who wants me to sit down and talk through things I've enjoyed for 20 minutes because that's two vast different worlds. But
Yes.
I've thoroughly enjoyed the process, and I'm not being harsh on myself in how things go because the I think for a little while I lost my way of finishing a video and me being happy with it,
Mm.
and that's all that used to matter. And I got into it for a little while, and I think I had a lull of, and you didn't ask for this context, but I will give it because explaining myself, I was posting daily since December of last year,
Wow.
for 7 months, and I was terrified of stopping because I didn't miss a day, and I talked to a couple of friends about it, and they were like, "Well, what are you concerned about the day you stop if you miss a day?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm too scared to think about." Like they're like, "No, like everyone's gonna come back. Like you don't have to worry." And I got so worked up for the idea of it, and then I realized, oh, I do need to stop. I wasn't a burnout. It was
Mm.
more I was forcing out videos that I wouldn't edit and go, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
And then I took like a good 2 weeks off. I think my body of working nonstop, still juggling a full-time job,
Mm.
trying to get into content. Got a bit sick for a while because my body was like, oh, we can actually rest and catch
Yep.
up with
Classic.
how how harsh you've been pushing
Dude, you've been
yourself.
so ill for months.
Yeah, please let us catch up.
No.
That's exactly how it felt. And then since then, I've been doing. I don't care how many times a week. I'm trying to do 3 or 4. I'm trying to do a long form a week. I'm also very conscious that if I can't, that's okay. It's and I think the day I came back and posted one, and the audience was still there, was like, oh, you've been putting yourself through. I wouldn't, yeah, not burnout, but just like strain and
Mm.
like exhaustion for no reason,
Yeah.
which has been a very validating and like humbling moment of, I don't have to be scared that there's still going to be an audience for me if I need to take time to work on myself and give myself a break, and which has been good.
Yeah, they're not here because of the quantity and the speed at which you put stuff out. They're here for
Exactly,
like the
exactly.
stuff you put out.
It was a very, humbling moment. Just I think earlier this week, I did a community post because I hit 150,000 on YouTube, which was awesome.
Congrats.
Thank you, thank you. And I just thanked everyone. It was a very genuine. I haven't said this to anyone. This is an official announcement, I guess. I'm doing full-time content next year, which is very exciting, and I'm very fortunate to be in a position where that's possible. But it was it's overwhelming in a sense because I don't know how to describe how grateful I am to have an audience. I don't. It's the imposter syndrome thing of I don't know why it's me and why they enjoy me, and I said that I'm like, guys, thank you. I don't know how to thank you guys so much. If genuinely I get to do the thing I've always wanted to do,
Mm.
and that's scary and super exciting. And then
Mm.
it was just a flood of like the sweetest comments that I've screenshotted a bunch of them because it's like a if you're ever feeling down on
Yeah.
yourself, this is why you're doing it. There's people here who care. So that it's been a very motivational couple of weeks with just feeling good about myself and direction and excited for next year.
Very cool. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about like what the future holds for Arlentric and what does like full time content creation look like for you? Words.
Yeah, so no, that's so a couple of things. I want to start getting back into streams and doing D&D content. I want to lock in a day or two a week to do that because want to do more stuff with the community, which is sometimes hard to do when I'm in Australia, I've got a large American audience and time zones exist. So figuring
Time
out a way
zones
of
do
juggling that,
exist.
they do. And they're brutal. They're brutal. Vast majority of my friends are from the UK and in Europe and in America, and they're like, want to hang out? And I'm like, it's 4:30 in the morning, but okay, I guess I'll get up. Let's hang out, guys.
Sure.
Easier to do when it'll be a full-time job and I can just figure out a sleeping schedule in American time. But which I'm not going to do, but that's okay. There's also I think it's really exciting. I'm trying to build out a content schedule that is I've worked very corporate jobs my entire life, and I like routine. And I think the scary thing is going full time is you now are entirely dependable on yourself, and you've got to figure out how to stay atop all of that. So I've got some time before next year to start shaping up what a work week looks like, and also being very conscious that I don't want to overextend myself and do 15-hour days, which I think would be very easy to do when no one says you can go home now. So that's a juggling act.
As someone who works from home and has been self-employed for the better part of of my life. Oh no, I didn't enjoy that.
That's a bad reflection.
Oh, I didn't enjoy that at all. The better part of half of my life, I think. It's weird, but also having ADHD makes it a little bit better, I think.
Absolutely, you can bounce around, and I'm excited and scared of just, I guess, being dependable and accountable on myself, which let's figure it out. I'm excited.
I guess YouTube acts as your outside motivation in those instances.
Yeah, which is it's a double-edged sword in the fact of I've never wanted to care about the number of how a video is doing, and now it matters more than ever, which is but figuring out other streams of making it manageable. That I don't know. It's content creation is a really weird space in the sense of I've never, until I went to Gen Con earlier in the year, and not a lot of people around Melbourne where I am recognize me on the street, because there's not a huge TTRPG scene here. But it's been very easy to disassociate the number on a screen as actually being a tangible human being. And then I went to America and got recognized, and I was like, oh, that's that now I'm a bit more scared of the numbers when they're there, because these are people.
I know they're real people.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting point. And I think that's true. Like, obviously, I'm a much smaller person who is on YouTube. I'm not going to call myself a YouTuber. Not because I think there's anything wrong with it, purely because this is very much like a thing I do for a couple of hours a week, which is the people that do this full time. It's such a graft.
You're a YouTuber. You're a YouTuber. Welcome to YouTube.
No. Getting a video with like 100 views on is like, oh, that's done okay. And it's like, yeah, but if I was sat in a room with 100 people watching me talk, I wouldn't be talking. I'd be freaking out on the stage.
It's literally, I was at a PAX, I was at a friend's panel, and he annoyingly pulled me up on stage for a second just for a thing, and seeing the crowd of people being like, oh, that's intimidating, and then getting off stage and sitting down, and then talk to him afterwards. He's like, yeah, that's 300 people. And I'm like, oh, that's scary that was intimidating at that scale. Like, now the number on my screen is even more intimidating most days.
Yeah, you're like sat there worrying, like, oh, it's only got 20,000 views. And then if you think about that for all too long, you just end up in an existential crisis.
It's a terrifying, especially with, and not to self-deprecate my content, but the idea of the example of 20,000 people watching me make the most low-hanging fruit joke about something, and all just staring is so.
You're like tapping on the microphone and going, fart. Yeah. And just a bunch of people laughing. Yeah, it's weird. The internet's weird. It's good, but it's weird.
I love how weird it is. Don't get me wrong, but it is very weird.
The best parts of the internet are the weird parts.
Exactly.
100%. And I think the stress of the internet and the worst parts of it are when it ends up trying to turn itself into a business. like on social media platforms, whatever else, and you're like, no, just let us make stupid jokes about like
Yeah,
I don't know, weird dad jokes about game names or whatever else it ends up being, right? Like, it's not so life is so serious. The internet can be silly. Let the internet be silly.
exactly. Exactly.
Let me make goblin fart jokes.
Yeah.
You talked about it a bit there, so let's talk about is it do you feel isolated as somebody doing this in Australia versus different parts of the world?
That's such a the timing of you bringing that up is so funny because I've had such an in-depth conversation over the past weekend with some new friends around, not even just in Australia as a
Mm,
whole, but um, content creation is super isolating, and I think I've been not blissfully, it's the wrong word. I've been very unaware of how important it is to have people who you can reach out to,
mm,
which I've established some connections and was writing a long form script today. And I just thought, oh, I'm going to message this person and just ask on their opinion on it. And they gave it to me. And I was like, that's so much cooler than me sitting here, like just beating my head on the table trying to think. Like, and everyone's so willing to talk. But yeah, it's Australia. I don't think we're it's hard. Yeah, I think US is the place to be in the
mm,
TTRPG scene, or even if you're in the UK, it's a little bit better than still being here, but we are making it work, I think. Uh, it's it's hard being away from everything. Like I want to go to more cons and stuff,
mm.
but setting aside, a 26-hour flight one way for a thing for a couple of days is there, and prices, and it's like
Yes.
I'm trying to find more time for that, but it's a conscious thing of I can't go to all of those things, and I really want to because that's the place to be. It's
Mm,
where you meet everyone. And I've got so many international friends that I want to spend more time with. But I think the isolating just point in general is such a big thing to call out because I content creation is so isolating.
mm,
I this little it's not 2 by 2, but I like to say that if you could see everything just stockpiled here, I've got a recording light, I've got a green screen that's just leaning on a wall. I stand here on I do a recording day to break up the days.
mm.
And I'll just stand in here and talk to myself for 6 hours. And it's hard being, and again, it's good to have friends now, but you'd sit there and the amount of footage I've got of me sitting there delivering a line and going, was that funny? I don't have a gauge on
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it is funny in writing, but it's
Yeah.
when you're doing everything by yourself, it's really important to find people from any perspective, outside perspectives, colleagues are weird. Again, you've said businessy. I don't look at this as what I do as businessy. I have to start treating it a bit more
Mm,
like that if it's going to be my full source of income. But I'm a dumb Australian dude who makes jokes about a game that I really like, and now it's yeah. The next year is scarier, but I'm at least happy to say I'm got a setup that I'm not going to be as isolated. I'm actively going to find those people and try and I want to go film things outside with other people
yeah.
because you know what would be funnier than me talking to myself? Having a friend in a video that seems really appealing to me. So it's just funny that you use the word isolating because I use that so much over the past couple of days, and I think it's a pretty common thread with I think a lot of people who are just either doing talking head
Mm,
TTRPG stuff. It's not even just in the TTRPG field, but when you're sitting in your room all day, you're your own editor,
yep.
unless you got to have an editor as well. You're the writer, you're the brains, you're the actor. It's yeah, it. I've got no gauge a lot of the time on if an idea is funny. I just kind of hope that it is, and that is isolating.
It's tough. Would you ever want to move to the US to like combat that or
That's a it's interesting. I went to the US for the first time this year, and I was like, it's fine. It's I got no issues with it. I think I'd have to have a pretty big drive or I guess reason for it. Outside of being closer to those people,
mm,
I've been in Australia my whole life. I love it here, but I guess I'm not really opposed to anything at the moment, which is an exciting prospect. I think I'm very much so, especially with next year figuring out I'm very conscious that content creation as a whole, I don't know what the longevity of this is,
mm,
but I'm very aware that it might not be this, but this might be the connecting thing to the thing that I actually wanted to end up doing.
Yeah.
So I'm not locked down to anything. I'm very excited to just grab on the end of this string and hold on for dear life as it drags me to wherever I'm going to end up next.
I do think that's indicative of just how work is for. I don't know how old you are, but like our generations.
I'm 28.
You're 28, so you're 8 years younger than me. So, yeah, I think my generation and basically the generations below mine, anyone below the age of 40, really, uh,
Yep.
the concept of like a stable job is just something that just doesn't exist. Certainly, if you're stupid enough to get into writing, um,
Ugh, it sucks. It sucks to be screwed.
yeah, the concept of job stability is just something that doesn't exist, and I think a lot of anyone under 40 is just sort of like they're like, yeah, I'll do this while it lasts. If it lasts, cool. If it doesn't last, I'll
That's
find something else.
Well, that was my exact mantra when my current job it's finished up, and I was sitting there. I'm like, do I go pick up another job that I don't actually care about
Mm,
at all, but money's nice,
money is nice.
or do I take a gamble on myself? And I don't think I've done that a lot throughout my life. I think I've been on a very not boring at all, not but like very safe
Mm,
path of just I've got jobs that have been very good for me and I've enjoyed and I've met good people, but this is something I really want to just try,
mm.
and I'm not scared if it doesn't go wrong. Go right, sorry. Which is That's a cool growth moment for me that I've just realized in myself. It's exciting to be scared but still be willing to deal with that fear.
No, for sure. Uh, how was your trip to the US in general?
Uh, a lot, it was like overwhelming. We obviously Indiana. We started in for Gen Con, which was just I'm from Australia and it's hot here, but it was unbearably hot in Indiana. The humidity and the heat, and then the con as well. Just like the scale of it. They had a board game library on an American football field, and my brain just couldn't comprehend. Like we got a PAX, and I'm like, this thing's huge, and Gen Con would have been like 13 times the
Wow.
size, and it was incredible. And then afterwards, I just did some traveling around New York and Philadelphia and Brooklyn as well. And yeah, it's everything in Australia seems relatively similar, just more hot or and nicer beaches in different areas, which I think a lot of Australians who, if there's Australians listening, they're gonna be really upset at me saying that. I don't travel much around here, but the US state to state was just so vastly different, which is
Mm,
I think why I am intrigued to go back there. And where I was only on the East Coast, so go to the West Coast and figure it all out. It's so big. There's so much to see.
yeah, it's yeah. It's. I mean, I'm from the UK, and the UK can fit in basically every US
Exactly.
state, and it's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
And I've been to the US a couple times. Only ever though. No, some of the coasts. I can't remember. My geography is not good. That is not a subject
No,
for
that's
this
not my strong
podcast.
suit. I'm glad I got east and west right when I was
Yeah,
pointing my
yeah,
hand.
yeah. Yeah.
That was huge for me.
That's a big deal. I definitely went to America twice, 2 or 3 times. Yeah, and it is just like you can fly over America for almost longer than you can drive across the UK.
That's an insane thing to think about. That is actually terrifying.
It's nuts. Like people, it takes. You can get from one end of the UK to you can get from like bottom to top in like a day,
That's wild.
and that's just
UK
not.
that's UK's way smaller than I've realized in my
It's
head.
like this big. It's nuts, and yeah, that's a whole other thing. Very nearly went into a whole thing there. We're not going to do that. We're swerving that thing. Um, do you have like an inkling as to whether or not your content's going to change being full time?
I can definitely see growth, and I'm hoping quality uptick in just production quality and things like that. I think the dream for me is to get in a and I've written down some goals for next year, but I think the dream for me, which is, it would be a hard thing to let go, but just in terms of time management, is I'd like to find someone who can edit for me, which is something I've been so scared to think about, because I love the process, but just I like the idea of being able to write, record, and not stress after that point until
Yeah.
I'm like, I because I otherwise I can see it like being like a very overwhelming very quickly when it's, especially if it's like, oh, it's a down month in views and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And again, trying to separate myself from being isolated and taking on all of the responsibility and stress that comes with doing this. So I think I answered your question. I just went on a thought tangent. I don't remember what the initial question was. So you can
How
remind me if I
interviews
missed
work.
it.
I am somebody with ADHD who's mostly interviewing creators who, like, 95% of which are also neurodivergent. It's a miracle questions get answered. Frankly, like, if you've watched this before, you know what you're getting into. If you haven't watched this before, then like this is a perfect example of what these are like. There's an answer somewhere. There was a question
There was an
somewhere.
answer. There was an
I
answer in
frequently
there.
can't remember the question I asked, so it's relevant of what answer you give. I'm like, yeah, that's perfect, perfect. I'm like, wait, what? Who am I? What's going on? ADHD, ladies and gentlemen. Great. I think that is actually all of the questions. So, is there anything in particular that you want to plug outside of your channel, which I will obviously link to? Is there any particular project or anything
Ooh.
else that you?
I'm going to be in Castleton, which is Wintertail's huge AP with 100 and something players. And that's a thing I've recently been brought into. And it's a big project that I'm going to be a part of, which is very exciting. And I'm going to have a cool Halloween long form video out on Wednesday that I haven't finished writing or recording, but this is now in this video. So I'm holding myself accountable to getting it done.
That will have gone up the day before this one. So if that hasn't gone up, if you haven't seen that before seeing this,
Message me on every social platform abusing me for not posting when I said I would, and I will feel very guilty.
very cool. Okay, the sign off. The sign off is wonderful. First of all, thank you very much for coming on. I will
Thank you so much for having me.
remember doing this every time. I usually thank people after. And I don't think it makes me look ungrateful, but it makes me feel ungrateful, even though it's a whole thing. Anyway, we're going to do the patented awkward pointy hat wave, because he was the first person I interviewed, where we just stare at the camera and wave, and then I edit at some point.
Fantastic. How long for?
It's just a few seconds. It doesn't have to be long. It just has to be a little uncomfortable for everyone involved. It's great.
Perfection.
Thanks, Antonio. Right. Ready? Warmed up? Stretch.
Limbered.
Got to stretch. Yeah, it's very important. Okay. Bye.
See ya.